Pag sinabi mong re-election, kailangan sitting president siya. Hindi siya pwedeng tumakbo. Re-election. Hindi naman sitting president si Rodrigo Duterte ngayon.
That's another interesting thesis because ang re-election can also be interpreted as running for any other election. So in your interpretation po, pwede pa, basta
Pwede
hindi
pa.
ka sitting president.
Tingnan mo ha, bakit yung senador? Magpahinga lang ng 3 taon, takbo ulit. Pwede. Bakit hindi naman pwede sa dating presidente?
Correct.
Interesting. Kailangan tingnan natin yan, no?
What's up mga kababayan? News that matters here. Dito sa video natin ngayon ay ating panoorin itong napakagandang talakayan nila Atty. Jimmy Bondok, Representative Bebot Alvarez, at itong magiting na newscaster, no? Dito sa usapin ng gobyerno na kanilang winika na dapat na talagang matanggal, no? Sa pwesto itong sinatambalos, Kimbo at sumunod na kay Zaldico. Once na hukuman ng korte o ombudsman ang ginawang pag-falsify nila dito sa nasabing dokumento ng BICAM. Na kanilang winika na masyado ng maraming iskandalo ang ginawa ng administrasyon ni Bangag at wala na ang delikadesa sa kanila. Grabe yan. Dagdag pang pinatotoo mga kababayan, ang bali-balita na nakatanggap talaga di umano ng suhol ang mga pulpul na kongreso para lang pumirma dito sa impeachment kay VP Sara. Hay nako, pera sa pirma talaga ang ginawa ng mga nasa lower house. Na dahil dito, kanya na ring isinuwalat na kapag nalaman pala ng mga bangag na pro Duterte ang mga nasa lower house, binabawasan di umano ang kanilang budget allocation sa mga distritong nire-representar nila. Grabe naman talaga. Panggigipit na talaga ang ginagawa ng mga ito. Pero bago ang lahat mga kababayan, huwag niyo po sana nakalimutan mag-like at subscribe para updated ka sa mga uploads ko araw-araw. At yun na nga mga kababayan, dagdag pang balita na kayang-kaya pa di umano ni Tatay Digong bilang presidente sa taong 2028. Dahil pinag-aaralan ngayon na kung ang mga senador nga pwedeng tumakbo na ma-re-elect muli sa posisyon bilang senador pagkatapos ng 3 years term nila, bakit hindi subukan na gawin din ito sa termino ng presidente na ma-re-elect muli ang isang Tatay Digong sa taong 2028. Ano sa tingin nyo doon mga kababayan? Mukhang magugulantang na naman ang mga bangag dito sa balitang ito. Kung kaya naman hindi ko na patatagalin pa, ito na ang buong video.
Kanina, Speaker Bebot, na-mention nyo na palagay nyo may kinalaman yung pag-resign ni Congressman Zaldico dito sa mga nangyari sa budget. Sa palagay nyo po ba, dapat mag-resign si House Speaker Martin Romualdez at yung mga iba pang akusado kaugnay dito sa kasong isinampan ninyo?
Attorney Karen, si Zaldico, hindi naman nag-resign, tinanggal siya.
Even if meron siyang in-announce na he's resigning for or stepping down for health reasons?
Hindi, tinanggal talaga siya.
Alam niyo po ba sinong nagtanggal?
Nag-move si Congressman Sandro Marcos, di ba? Nag-move siya to declare vacant yung chairmanship ng Appropriations Committee.
At that time po ba, because kami nanonood lang, I personally assumed that it was declared vacant because Congressman Zaldico had already resigned by then. Hence, the motion to declare it vacant. Or hindi pa po siya nag-resign at that time?
Mukhang hindi naman nag-resign eh. Nagsabi lang siya na meron siyang health problems, pero hindi siya nag-resign.
And what do you make of this? Meaning, kung nag-step down na si Kong Zaldico as chairman for appropriations, do you think there should still be liability left for those who are left in the leadership?
Dito, since nung nangyari yung crime, Zaldico was the chairperson of the Appropriations Committee. Of course, perfected na yung crime by then. So liable pa rin siya kahit na sino yung pumalit. But si Congresswoman Kimbo was quick in saying that putting the blame dun sa technical working group, yung staff ng Appropriations Committee. Kawawa naman yun.
Pero pwede po bang mangyari yun? In the past, nagagawa po ba yun sa Congress na you have a technical staff that fills in blanks, not just for BICAM reports, but House resolutions and other documents from Congress?
Ay, hindi po talaga pwede yun. Wala po kaming rules na gano'n na pwede. Meron nga yung typographical error, yung spelling, grammar, di ba? Pero yung ganun, papalitan mo, lagyan mo ng amount from 0, kahit lagyan mo ng 1, hindi pwede.
And so, Attorney Jimmy, going back to that question, do you think that there should be resignations from the House leadership because of this case?
I think this is a matter of taste, for individual opinions. Para sa akin, I would prefer that they correct this mistake. while they are in power because it's really egregious, no? Kawawa naman ng taong bayan. Why don't they correct it?
So no need to resign, pero correct mistakes that were
Kasi
made.
resignation would be something personal for them to show remorse. So that's up to them.
What about those that say that out of delicadeza?
Yes, that's I guess that's the better word, no?
Natatawa si Speaker Bebot. Bakit po kayo natatawa?
Hindi kasi yung delikadesa na yan, Attorney Karen, sa napanood ko, wala ho dito sa Pilipinas yan. Sa ibang bansa meron. Pagka na-involve sila sa yung skandalo, may resignation kaagad yan.
Correct.
Dito sa Pilipinas, kahit natambakan mo pa yan ng skandalo, wala pong nagre-resign so far.
What can we expect right now in terms of after this case was filed? Saan na pupunta to? Magkakaroon ba? They are supposed to be given time to respond or comment on your complaint.
Normally, di ba ang kaso file namin sa ombudsman, of course, yung ombudsman naman magpapadala sa kanila ng ano yun to answer, di ba? The complaint. Number of days.
Yes.
Ganun.
So wala pa tayo sa
Wala
ganun.
pa tayo sa ganun. no?
And masasabay to sa campaign period. Will this not distract from Speaker Bebot, you're running for re-election?
Ano,
No?
nag-last term ako eh.
Okay. Sino pong tatakbo in your place?
Wala akong kandidato sa district.
So papahinga po muna kayo.
Hindi naman, I'm running for Vice Governor of Davao del Norte.
Okay, so you're also going to be busy with the campaign?
Yes, yes.
Oo.
In fact, ngayon, naiwanan ko nga yung kampanya ko doon dahil because of this filing of the cases. Oo.
Why do you think this was important over your campaign?
Well, importante ito, Karen, Attorney Karen. Kasi, kung hindi ito ma-check, mahirap. Lalaki ng lalaki. Tingin ko, nag-umpisa sila sa mga maliliit siguro. Dahil for 3 years now na si Marcos yung presidente, ang sama talaga ng mga budget allocation. Even sa distrito ko, hindi maganda yung budget allocation.
Ano pong ibig sabihin nyo na hindi maganda yung allocation? Hindi po ba nakakarating yung mga programa?
Halimbawa lang, no? During the time of former President Duterte, may mga flood control projects na inumpisahan. Hindi ito natapos kaagad dahil na kailangan ng masyadong malaki yung amount involved para tapusin yung project. So naging ito yung parang continuing appropriation every year, dadagdagan hanggat matapos yung proyekto. Ngayon, mula nung umupo si Mr. Marcos, until now, hindi na napatuloy yung yung project na yun. Ano nangyari? One time, nagkaroon ng malaking baha sa Davao del Norte. Yung mga proyekto na naumpisahan, washed out ng baha. Walang natira. So sayang yung pera na ginastos ng gobyerno doon.
Palagay nyo po ba may kinalaman yung hindi pagtuloy sa mga proyekto dun sa
Kinurakot.
association nyo with former President Duterte or being perceived as pro-Duterte?
Malamang. At saka hindi rin kasi ako kumampi sa kanila. Kaya hindi naman ako yung sunod-sunuran doon sa gusto nila.
Attorney Jimmy, how do you think this can change with the 20th Congress? Palagay nyo po ba may mababago because of the case that you filed?
Well, that is always the hope, for us to believe in the justice system and to send out a message, Sa mga susunod po, kaya mahalaga yung 2025 elections, baka sakaling gawin na nilang necessary changes na mawala ng ambiguities in passing, especially the budget, Let us remove human agency, palagay ko. And I think that will only change kung ilagay natin yung mga honest people there who will actually reform it. Kasi kung hindi sila nandun, why would they reform it if it benefits them?
And Speaker Bebot, ngayon po dun tayo sa topic ng impeachment, merong mga nagsasabi at kumakalat din sa online na meron daw inalok na 150 million per congressman para pumirma doon sa impeachment complaint versus Vice President Sara. Nabalitaan niyo po ba to or naalok ka po ba?
Nabalitaan ko yan, Attorney Karen. Pero ako, hindi ako naalok dahil alam naman nila na baka maging witness pa ako dyan. So, yung 150 million na yan na sinasabi nila, syempre hindi naman lahat cash yan. May mga part cash, meron ding portion, mga promises sa infrastructure projects, yung mga AKAP, AIX. So, iba-ibang components yan.
Dahil hindi po kayo pumirma,
Grabe mga kababayan, galing na kay Representative Alvarez na may nangyari talagang bayaran o suhulan sa pagpirma sa impeachment kay VP Sara. Ang lala.
sa impeachment. Meron po bang kayong napansin na consequences? Meron po ba kayong mga nabawasan na allocation sa district ninyo? May naramdaman po ba kayong consequences?
Yung impeachment, kung maalala natin, ginawa nila after na nung napirmahan yung General Appropriations Act. So, yung budget ko, bawas na. At hindi naman ako nagtataka dahil 3 taon ang ginagawa sa akin yan eh. Day 1 pa lang hanggang day 2, day 3, ganun pa rin. So, sanay na ako na walang budget sa district.
Yung mga iba po ba, may mga kakilala kayo na puwersa lang pumirma because takot mabawasan yung budget or mawalan?
Yun ang naririnig ko, na yung ibang congressman pumirma dahil nga takot sila.
Anong masasabi mo dun sa mga napapirma dahil takot lang sila? As lawyers here, I want to pick your brains on this. Would this affect the validity of the impeachment at the level of Congress?
Hindi naman siguro dahil nga pumirma na sila eh. But Karen, ang proseso, hindi sinunod. Ni walang debate sa plenaryo eh. Doon sa mga grounds for impeachment. Walang debate ron. Normally, nagkakaroon ng debate doon sa plenary sa grounds for impeachment. Para pagdating doon sa Senado parang ito yung korte dyan, ay hindi kahiya-hiya.
Meaning they should have determined the sufficiency of form and substance before filing it endorsing it to Senate
Yes,
as an
oo.
impeachment court.
Ikaw familiar ka dyan dahil nung impeachment ni former Chief Justice Corona, nandoon ka. Mahirap mag-prosecute kapag hindi well-prepared yung House of Representatives.
But one of the things na nakita po namin ay minsan nagagamit yung impeachment court to gather evidence. Meaning, kung hindi gawin ng Kongreso yung trabaho nila na sila ang kumuha ng ebidensya bago nila i-file yung impeachment sa Senate, nagagamit yung impeachment court as the forum for fishing expedition. So, kung ganun po, palagay nyo ba ay merong infirmity yung magiging decision ng impeachment court? Because hindi na test yun eh. Even with our impeachment trial dati with Chief Justice Corona, kahit may lumabas na mga supposedly bank documents where the source was questionable or the way it was obtained was legally questionable. At the end, ganun pa rin, nauwi pa rin sa conviction. So would you say that this is a political process and
Yeah.
just futile to talk about legalities?
Yes, Attorney Karen. If you will notice, lahat ng political processes, such as impeachment or even yung mga contempt sa House, they keep on invoking halimbawa the rules of court or the rules on evidence, but we all know that they are not squarely applicable. So pagdating dun sa political process, wala tayong magagawa. No, impeachment is truly political. So importante po yung pagsubaybay ng taong bayan para makita nila if due process is violated.
Kahapon nag-announce si Senate President Cheese Escudero na yung impeachment trial ay magaganap after the election. So this would be in June. As lawyers, do you think there would be any legal challenges to the impeachment being heard when the composition of Senate has changed?
Malaking bagay yun, Attorney Karen, pag nagbago yung composition ng Senate. Kasi una-una, pag nagbago yan, magbabago rin yung leadership ng Senado.
Or may possibility magbago?
May possibility,
Oo.
oh.
So, pero may effect po ba yun dun sa...
May chance pa tayo mga kababayan, no? Na dapat sa darating na eleksyon, ang mga nakaluklok na Senado ang mga slate ni Tatay Digong upang mawalang bisa itong isinampang impeachment ng mga pulpul na lower house dito kay VP Inday Sara. I-straight vote natin mga kababayan. Huwag niyo pong kalimutan.
Validity nung first impeachment complaint that was endorsed to Senate, would they have to refile? What do you think, Attorney Jimmy?
Attorney Karen, let's be honest here, no? Even the pundits are, yung mga expert are in
In a quandary.
In a quandary here, no? Kasi nga the Constitution is vague on this.
Yeah.
And it's unprecedented.
Yeah, it's never happened
It's
in
never
our
happened.
history.
So let's just be honest about that, no? In my case, I agree with yung sinasabi nila na i-refile na lang. Because logically, may pagbabagong ng tao. So we have to honor the opinions of the newly elected.
Well,
Yun
there
ang
would
akin.
also be a change in the composition of Congress by then, with the
Also,
20th Congress.
yes.
But would this affect yung validity nung na-endorse na? Because the impeachment grounds are there. So it would be up to the new Senate to hear whatever was filed by the 19th Congress.
Yeah, again, Attorney Karen, there are two views, no? Yung sinasabi ng iba, like any other bill, titigil yan. Yung iba naman sinasabi, this is not a legislative function, it's a political function, so it continues. So nasa sa inyo na po yan, how you interpret it. I am of the opinion na we respect the change in the leadership.
But one of the challenges, I think, strategically for those who filed the impeachment complaint would be the one-year ban rule. Because if they have to refile it, then I think the one-year ban rule kicks in and they have to wait another year before they file a new impeachment complaint.
Yes.
But from a political standpoint, what do you think would be the effect on the chances of Vice President Sara being impeached at the level of Senate with the new composition in Senate? That's already I know
sige.
that's a political question. I'm just picking your brains on this. Yeah.
Let me endeavor a guess, no? Kasi una-una hindi natin alam ang mangyayari sa eleksyon, no? So, yung wish ko na lang is maybe finally diplomacy will reign after the 2025 elections.
Diplomacy or rule of law. What about you, Speaker Bebot?
Ito, yung problema dito, Attorney Karen, ginawa nila yung impeachment, wala sa timing eh.
Tama.
Mag-i-eleksyon. So I think favorable to kay Attorney Bondok dahil kandidato siya na senador, no? Ngayon, kung yung tao magkaisa rito na lahat ng kandidato ni Presidente Duterte susuportahan.
Correct.
Lahat
Yan
ng may
dapat.
gusto kay Bongbong Marcos, o sige, huwag niyong suportahan yan. Pwede mangyari yon. In fact, sa probinsya ngayon, sa amin, kung sino yung kandidato ni Marcos sa Senado, huwag nating suportahan. Ganun ang mentality ng tao. Nakikita ko yun dahil nag-ground ako. Pulong-pulong sa barangay, makikita mo talaga.
So this really has a
Tama, no, mga kababayan. Gusto ng taong bayan straight vote ang slate ng mga Duterte upang hindi makapasok sa Magic 12 itong mga slate ni Bangag. Kaya natin to, kayang-kaya na maibalik ang administrasyon ng mga Duterte sa loob ng Malacanang. Basta walang dayaang mangyari.
divisive effect, yung impeachment.
Very much so.
And sa inyo pong experience, dahil kakalabas lang din ng Pulse Asia survey, nakita natin na in the recent survey that was held around January, ang nag-top pa rin sa list, top 12, ay mostly the administration candidates. They got a majority of those that are in the top of the survey. So palagay niyo po ba magbabago to because of the things that are happening with the impeachment and all the other issues relating to the budget?
Ay, definitely yes, Attorney Karen. Dahil mahaba pa yung eleksyon, matagal pa. Mayo pa yun. So, dadaan pa tayo ng Marso, di ba?
And where is former President Rodrigo Duterte in all of this? Sabi niyo hindi siya nag-participate dito sa pag-file nitong complaint na to at wala rin siyang kinalaman dito. But nasaan siya ngayon? Meron ba siyang coordination sa inyo in terms of the campaign at dito sa advocacy niyong baguhin yung proseso sa budget?
Well, Attorney Karen, first of all, regarding the budget, wala po siya doon. Pero dun sa campaign, he is still known as the strongest and most influential endorser. Bukod doon, siya pa rin ay nasa liderato ng PDP Laban. So obviously, he will take on a leadership role in the campaign for PDP Laban.
Speaker Bebot, matagal niyo na pong kaibigan si former President Duterte. Kamusta naman yung health niya? Malakas pa rin po ba siya?
Malakas na malakas.
So talagang si Tatay Digong ay
Lalaban pa yan. I think he is still good for one election.
Well, there was also a case filed by former Executive Secretary Vic Rodriguez and Congressman Ungab that questioned the legality of the General Appropriations Act or the 2025 National Budget with the Supreme Court. Have you been in touch with them regarding the case that they filed?
As of now, hindi pa. Pero I intend to dahil gusto kong mag-file ng intervention.
Would you relate this case to yung falsification of a legislative document dun sa BICAM report, doon sa case that they filed in the Supreme Court?
Hindi. Hiwalay namin yung criminal case.
But hindi niyo po isasama yun sa intervention niyo to question the legality?
Yung sa legality lang, oo.
But kayo, Attorney Jimmy, are you also interested in intervening in that other case?
Yes. In fact, I've had many casual talks with Attorney Vic. No? Sa akin, even from the academic standpoint, maganda eh. No? Kasi talaga maraming alleged violations of the Constitution. Yung mas maliit yung budget sa edukasyon. Di ba? Yung cross-border doctrine. Yung mga lawyers, alam nila yon. So, we'll see.
What is that cross-border doctrine that you're referring to?
Kasi meron din silang case, sorry no, it's a bit separate naman, no, but they were also questioning naman yung sa PhilHealth naman, yung tumawid. So I was referring to our discussions about the constitutionality of the moves of the administration.
I think this is also a first in the Philippines. Kung ma-declare tong unconstitutional, first time mangyayari yata sa bansa natin na i-declare na unconstitutional or
Yes,
void yung budget.
Because the Constitution is clear on certain things, aside from education. Yung halimbawa, hindi pwedeng taasan yung hinihingi ng Presidente. Pwedeng babaan, pwedeng pantayan, pero hindi pwedeng taasan. And allegedly, nangyari. Yung sa education, mas mababa. Dapat highest budgetary priority. Things like that.
And kung ma-declare unconstitutional itong 2025 national budget, the legal effect would be for the 2024 budget to be reenacted. So palagay nyo ba meron tong consequences in terms of the 2025 elections? I mean, I'm already for those that it's hard to be explicit, diba? Pero kanina sinasabi niyo po, Speaker Bebot, na palagay ninyo may kinalaman din sa upcoming elections yung mga insertions, yung ibang amounts na linagay doon. So won't that compromise yung kunwari gagamitin sa campaigning yung AKAP? So with the passage of the 2024 or reenactment of the 2024 budget, mababawasan yung mga nakalaan for the elections.
Mawala yun dahil ang reenacted budget kasi MOOE yan karamihan eh. So para lang hindi huminto yung services ng gobyerno.
So mga maintenance and operating
Yes,
expenses.
walang mga infrastructure projects, pwede na mag-antay yan.
So kung
At saka dapat talagang matanggal yung mga insertion na yan na gagamitin para sa eleksyon ng mga bangag. Napaka-unfair nito pagdating sa mga kampo ni Tatay Digong. Kaya hindi kataka-takan itong mga slate ni Bangag ay ang lakas makatarpulin ng mga naglalakihang tarpulin sa mga kalsada. Dahil may budget ang mga ito na galing sa kurakot sa kaba ng taong bayan. Hay nako.
meron man gagamitin dapat for the elections, mawawala ito katulad ng mga AKAP.
Mawawala yan, oo.
And do you think, Attorney Jimmy, that would be good for the 2025 elections?
You know, medyo may iba akong opinion na feeling ko kasi the damage has been done. No? Palagay ko, kumalat na yung pera, nagkabigayan na, ika nga. No, so, siguro mababawasan po ng konti yung kanilang war chest, ika nga. But I think the damage has been done.
Ano pong inaasahan ninyo dun sa kaso that you filed in the Ombudsman? Do you think this would be acted upon quickly? And do you think you're going to get a fair trial?
Ako, malaki ang tiwala ko, Attorney Karen, na magkakaroon ng fair trial. Dahil yung ombudsman naman, so far, maganda naman yung performance nila.
He's independent po.
Sana nga.
Maraming nagsasabi na yung impeachment ni Vice President Sara has to do with making sure that she's unable to run in the 2028 elections. Do you think that's a possibility?
Well, yes, Attorney Karen, sorry, Speaker Alvarez. But di ba, sa impeachment, meron talagang disqualification na kaakibat yun, no? Perpetual. So, I suppose that is evidently one of their goals. No?
But Speaker Bebot,
Mas disadvantageous sa kanila yun. Kung halimbawa, hindi nga nakatakbo si Vice President Sara, nandiyan pa naman si former President Rodrigo Duterte, pwede naman tumakbo. Remember, ang prohibition sa Constitution, yung re-election. Malinaw yon, di ba? Pag sinabi mong re-election, kailangan sitting president siya. Hindi siya pwedeng tumakbo. Re-election. Hindi naman sitting president si Rodrigo Duterte ngayon.
that's another interesting thesis because ang re-election can also be interpreted as running for any other election. So in your interpretation po, pwede pa, basta
Pwede
hindi
pa.
ka sitting
Oh,
president.
tingnan mo ha, bakit yung senador, magpahinga lang ng 3 taon, takbo ulit? Pwede. Bakit hindi naman pwede sa dating presidente?
Correct.
Interesting. Kailangan tingnan natin yan, no? Attorney Jimmy, do you share the same view na pwede?
Well, I'll be honest, no? I am on the fence on that because ang ganda nung issue of the vagueness of the Constitution of that. Kaya nga yung mga kumukontra sa charter change, bakit ba kasi ayaw yung linawin na natin once and for all? Kung ano ba talaga gusto natin sa term ng presidente?
It's going to be very interesting.
There was also an issue about this nung si former President naman Gloria ran for Congress. Tapos may nagsabi na hindi raw pwede kasi re-election din daw yon. I mean, maraming mga ganyang opinion, no?
Yeah.
So I think academically it should be discussed.
Yes. And it's any
Ang
final
mala-
words, Speaker
Ang
Bebot?
malakas dito, Attorney Karen, yung equal protection of laws sa Constitution. Kasi kung pwede sa senador, pwede sa congressman, bakit hindi pwede sa former president? Nagpahinga na siya, di ba?
Nako, Speaker Bebot, pag marinig ka ng mga iba, baka biglang marami ng former presidents na tatakbo. Parang para tayong President Trump na biglang babalik, no?
But to add to that, Attorney Karen, sabihin na natin hindi po si former President Rodrigo Duterte. Ang dami pa pong Duterte na pinagkakatiwalaan ng bayan. So I think impeachment of VP is futile if all they want is to reduce the power of the Dutertes. No? And I'm not speaking as a, I'm being very objective here. Sikat naman talaga yung mga Duterte.
Okay. Fill up.
Oho. Dahil hindi naman authorized anybody except Congress para maglagay ng amendment doon sa bill.
Kung dati po never nagkaroon ng blanco sa BICAM report at hindi rin to allowed ng House rules, bakit po in this case, this time, nagkaroon ng mga blanco?
Ito yun, Karen, no? Sobrang garapal na talaga yung sistema ngayon. Kahit alam nilang crime ito, tuloy pa rin sila.
What was the intention para iwan ng blanco?
Dahil ayaw nga pumayag nung una, ayaw pumayag ng Senado eh. Doon sa mga gusto nila mangyari, ganito kalaki yung akap. Tapos, siyempre sa Constitution nakalagay doon, kailangan yung budget ng education, talagang yun mas mataas sa lahat. Dito, mas mataas yung budget ng DPWH. So doon pa lang, may problema na kagad. Kaya siyempre, para hindi na magtagal doon sa Senado, tinira nila dito sa House of Representatives.
And doon na lang nila linagay yung mga amounts.
Doon nila nilagay.
Representative Stella Kimbo recently said that filling in the blanks was ministerial because there was supposed to be technical staff that would fill it in based on computations. Meron po bang agreed upon computations at the level of the 19th Congress?
Well, ganito yan, Karen. Tama naman siya, ministerial, no? Pero ito yung referring typographical error, yung error in spelling, hindi yung from zero, lagyan mo ng number, let's say 1, di ba? Or 3, or 5. Hindi pwede yon. Dapat kung zero dito, zero din dito sa kabila. Hindi pwedeng lagyan mo na ng amount yan. Eh dito, matindi. Zero yung total. Pagdating dito sa kabila, ginawa nila 241 billion, more or less, ang pinasok nilang projects.
Attorney Karen, if I may clarify,
Yes.
no? A best example of a correction would have been if there was an amount there that, let's say, it says 100 pesos, and then they left out a zero, the staff could put in the zero to make it 1,000. I would still question that, but at least it's an actual correction. Pero for a blank to have an amount, that falls way outside the definition of a correction.
So from a legal standpoint, when you filed this case, what evidence are you relying on to prove that there is indeed a criminal act?
Attorney Karen, no, this is very interesting even for your students, for law students ng statutory construction. This is the best example of res ipsa loquitur. No? The thing speaks for itself. The best example, I think, it will be landmark because it will show clearly that the custody of the document was with the people mentioned, the persons mentioned. It was in their control.
The
bago
persons
po-
mentioned, meaning the accused in this case.
Yes. Kasi po, this was printed in the House of Representatives, in their custody. After all of the processes, bago po umakyat sa Presidente, dyan po pinrint yan. And they were the only persons with the authority and with the physical presence of themselves or their staff na maaaring nailagay yan. The thing speaks for itself.
And what is the reason why the case was filed against the leadership in Congress, meaning specifically House Speaker Martin Romualdez, Congressman Zaldico, and Majority Leader Manix Dalipe? Bakit hindi kasama yung iba?
Kay Romualdez, dito kasi, sa Congress, Karen, wala pong nangyayari dyan without the consent of the Speaker. Lahat yan, may basbas ng Speaker. Ngayon, why si Zaldico? Si Zaldico ang last touch dito bago to naging enrolled bill.
And you know that for a fact
Committee
po
on
as a member
Appropriation.
of the 19th Congress.
Opo. Kasi dadaan talaga sa Committee on Appropriations yan bago mo iprinta yan. So Zaldico, last touch dito. So hindi po pwedeng wala siyang kinalaman dito.
And Majority Leader Manix Dalipe.
Manix Dalipe, siyempre siya yung nagko-command doon sa floor.
And yung Senate po, before it becomes a General Appropriations Act, they also have their own Committee on Appropriations that meets with the Committee on Appropriations of Congress.
O yung finance yata yun sa
Yes.
kanila.
So, wala po bang kasama dito from Senate?
Wala po.
And what is the reason for that?
Kasi yung BICAM report na lang yung dumating sa amin. Ngayon, yun na yung i-discuss
Yung mga-
dito sa plenary.
And yung umabot po ba sa Senate, by then meron ng mga amounts? Or would you know, Attorney Jimmy?
No, Attorney Karen, to be very clear, kasi this is technical, it's very confusing. Yung journals ng Senate show na pinag-usapan nila yan at pumasa yan ng blanco, clear po yun. Yung journals ng Congress, wala po, it's not published on the site, which they're duty-bound to do, pero wala po doon. Be that as it may, wala namang krimen pa rin kung blanco yan eh. Wala
So
pa rin krimen.
it's their discretion. They can approve blanks.
Yes, so wala pang problema from the Senate and even from the House nung blanco siya. Pero nung printing na, which was done at the House of Representatives, nung printing na, doon lang yung opportunity na magkaroon ng insertion. And therefore, that is the only time may crime.
Would you say that this was done with the consent of Senate if they approve the report with blanks?
Well, the reason why they're not joined here is because there's no evidence of that, no? Ang point lang po dito, yung sinasabi nga nating the thing speaks for itself, no? Is, nangyari yan sa House of Representatives, doon po officially yung printing bago ipadala yung GAB for the President's approval. And
Kaya dapat talaga managot yung sinatambalos Stella Kimbo, no? At ang mga iba pang kasamahan nila na mapatalsik sa kanilang posisyon dahil sa ginawa nila yung kabalbalan.
signature.
And Executive Secretary
Bersamin.
Bersamin and President Bongbong Marcos said that the General Appropriations Act had no blanks. Is that irrelevant?
That is correct because nung pinadala yung printed gov sa Presidente, kumpleto na yung amount.
Yung
Fill
General
up pa na.
Appropriations Bill na to.
Yes,
Oh.
kumpleto na. Ginawa na ng House of Representatives. Ipinasok na nila yung gusto nila. Ngayon, if you remember, hindi kaagad pinirmahan ni Presidente yan nung scheduled date. Sabi niya kailangan nilang i-review.
Yes.
So nung nagtataka ako, bakit kung ni-review talaga yan, edi dapat nalaman niya na may mga kulang-kulang dyan. Pagdating from the Senate, magpunta sa House of Representatives from the Bicameral Committee.
So would you say na hindi na review properly? Ano po yung palagay niyo nangyari along the way?
Palagay ko rito, ewan ko kung talagang ni-review nila o hindi, no? Dahil kung ni-review nila, hindi naman po pwedeng hindi nila malalaman yun. Dahil vast yung powers ng Presidente. Alam niya yun, unless na talaga naisahan siya rito.
So you should have seen the BICAM report
Oo.
with the filled up amounts.
Yes, oo.
Attorney Jimmy, would there be any liability that ultimately would also be linked to Malacanang, to the President and the Office of the Executive Secretary?
Attorney Karen, that is a matter of evidence, I think. But that is also the reason why we are taking measures to make it clear that we are focusing on the falsification that happened at the House. So that the parameters are clear. Kasi po baka maging political pag inisip nila na dinadamay na namin lahat. Tsaka baka magbukang shotgun, no? Lahat na lang sinisisi namin. It is very clear here by the facts of the case na may falsification dun sa printing.
And you're really concentrating on just that criminal act
We
of
have to.
falsification.
We have to. That is our contribution to the discussion, to the public discussion. Because there are also constitutionality issues, Attorney Rodriguez. We leave that to them.
And Speaker Bebot, you mentioned that the insertions amount to around 241 billion pesos.
Total, yes.
Have you heard of where this was going to go? Kung para saan itong mga amounts na ito?
Well, mostly, pag pinag-aralan mo yung breakdown, nasa Department of Agriculture. Tapos yung NIA, ang laki ng mga amounts doon. Oo.
So would you say that they are going to legitimate programs?
Hindi ko po alam kung legitimate yun. Tapos kasi may mga akap din doon. No? Akap, AX.
Well, the timing is nearing an elections, the 2025 budget. Sa palagay niyo po ba meron ditong kinalaman din sa elections in terms of the amounts?
Definitely yes, because yung mga AKAP, AX na yan, ginamit na nila yan na weapon during election ng barangay elections. Binuhusan nila ng AKAP, AX to support their own candidates.
Correct.
Thank you so much, Attorney Jimmy Bondoc and Speaker Bebot Alvarez. It was a pleasure to have you both here today.
Maraming salamat,
Pleasure is
Attorney.
ours.
At yun na nga, mga kababayan, narinig natin itong makabuluhang diskusyon, na ginawa nila Atty. Jimmy Bondoc na tumatakbo sa pagkasenado at nitong si Representative Bebot Alvarez. Na-straight vote po natin, mga kababayan, ang slate ni PRRD. As always, mga kababayan, kita na lang ulit tayo sa ating next vlog. Huwag niyo po sana kalimutan mag-like at subscribe para updated ka sa mga uploads ko araw-araw. Maraming po salamat, mga kababayan. Ingat and God bless.